Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're embarking on a really fascinating journey into the global market for erectile dysfunction drugs.
hmm
We've got a comprehensive 2025 market analysis report as our guide, and our aim is basically to uncover the key trends and future directions of this pretty significant industry.
Exactly. And this report, it gives us a really detailed picture, doesn't it? Where the market stands right now in 2025, and then projections all the way out to 2033.
Right. So the big question is the future going to be dominated by the pills we're familiar with, or are we maybe on the verge of a major shift?
That's what we'll explore. We'll look at market size, growth rates across different regions, the main players, and crucially, what's actually driving all this activity.
Okay, let's dive right into the big picture then. The report pegs the global market size for ED drugs in 2025 at what, USD 342.5 million.
That's right, over $3 billion.
A substantial number, but here's where it gets really interesting. They predict this will more than double.
More than double, yeah. To USD 635.13 million by 2033.
That's a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 9.50%.
9.5%. That's pretty robust growth year on year.
It really is. It's not just inching up. It's, like you said, significant expansion every year, almost like a snowball effect. So what's fueling this kind of expansion?
Well, there are several factors. The report specifically calls out the increased prevalence of hypertension as a major driver.
Okay. High blood pressure.
Exactly. There's a pretty well-established link between hypertension and ED. So as more people unfortunately experience high blood pressure, the need for treatment options just naturally increases.
That's a very logical connection. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit geographically. Where is this demand concentrated? I imagine we'll see some differences.
Oh, definitely. Big variations in growth rates and market sizes across the continents. It highlights how diverse the factors are.
So North America first. It's currently holding the largest slice of the pie, right?
It is over 40% of the global revenue in 2025. That translates to USD 162.73 million.
And still growing, though, maybe not the fastest. The projected CAGR is 7.9% through 2033.
Correct. Still solid growth. And within North America, the United States is, unsurprisingly, the dominant force.
Right, USD 917.39 million market size, 7.7% CDGR. Makes sense, strong healthcare system, relatively quick approval for new treatments.
Absolutely. That established infrastructure is key. Canada is also contributing significantly, USD 139.53 million, and actually a slightly higher CDR at 8.7%.
Interesting. Linked to medical tech advances, the report says?
Seems to be, yeah. Suggests faster adoption of newer treatments, perhaps. And Mexico is solid, too. USD 105.81 million, 8.4% CGR.
Okay, so North America is big, established, still growing steadily, but you mentioned variations. What's surprising you when you look globally?
Well, while North America is the biggest now, what's really fascinating is the rate of growth we're starting to see elsewhere. The U.S. strength is clear, but those faster CDRs popping up in other regions, yeah, that's where the story gets interesting.
Okay, let's cross the pond then. Europe. It's not far behind North America in size, is it?
No, it holds over 30% of the market in 2025. That's USD 911.33 million. And its overall projected CAGR is a bit higher than North America's at 8.5%.
And who are the key players there? The UK, Germany, France?
Those are the big ones, yeah. The UK actually stands out with a 9.3% CAGR.
Higher than the European average. Why is that?
The report suggests a mix of an aging population and, interestingly, lifestyle changes. Germany is close behind at 8.7%, more linked to the prevalence of chronic diseases there.
So different drivers even within Europe.
Exactly. Then you have France at 7.7%, Russia at 7.5%, Spain 7.6%, Italy 7.9%. Even smaller countries like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg show solid growth around the 8-9% mark.
It really paints a diverse picture, doesn't it? Different health trends, maybe different cultural attitudes impacting treatment seeking across the continent.
Absolutely. The UK's higher growth might point to perhaps greater openness in discussing and treating ED compared to some other parts of Europe, alongside those demographic factors.
Okay, now this is the part of the report that really piqued my interest, the Asia-Pacific region, APAC.
Ah, yes. Explosive growth is the term, I think.
It seems like it. They hold around 23% of the market currently, so USD 754.2 million in 2025. But the projected CAGR,
A whopping 12.3% through 2033. That's the highest growth rate globally by quite a margin.
12.3%. Wow. And China leads the way within APAC.
In terms of market size, yes, USD 316.76 million and an 11.8% CAGR. The report links that largely to the increasing geriatric population.
Makes sense. But wait, India's growth rate?
Even higher. India has the highest CAGR within APAC at 14.2%. Market size currently smaller, USD 75.42 million. But that growth trajectory is phenomenal.
14.2%. What's driving that specifically?
Well, it's likely a combination. Increased internet access means more awareness, maybe through online pharmacies and telehealth, which we'll touch on later. There's also potentially a gradual lessening of stigma around sexual health discussions. Plus, factors like comorbid conditions similar to South Korea.
South Korea?
They're growing fast, too.
Yes, 11.4% CAGR. And the report highlights the presence of comorbid conditions there. Things like diabetes, heart conditions often go hand in hand with ED. So as those rise, ED prevalence likely rises too.
I see. And Japan, Australia, Southeast Asia?
Japan's strong too, 10.8% CAGR. Australia, 11.6%. And Southeast Asia as a whole is projected at 13.1% growth. Really points to a rapidly developing healthcare landscape across the entire region.
Incredible potential in APAC then. Okay, let's quickly cover the other regions. South America.
South America holds just over 5% of the market, around USD 119.42 million in 2025, with a solid CAGR of 10.2%.
And Brazil and Argentina lead there.
They do. Brazil at 10.8% CAGR, Argentina is slightly higher at 11.1%. Interestingly, the report notes a growing number of patients in Brazil willing to pay for treatment.
Ah, economic factors coming into play. Disposable income, maybe.
Could be. And in Argentina, it mentions increasing awareness specifically as a driver. So education and economic development both influencing the market.
Right. What about the Middle East and Africa? Smaller shares, I assume.
Yes, smaller shares currently, but still showing pretty strong growth potential. The Middle East is around 2%, USD 125.70 million, but with a high AGR of 10.8%.
Almost as high as APAC's average.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key markets there. Factors mentioned include rising healthcare spending in places like Turkey and better healthcare infrastructure in Qatar.
In Africa?
Africa is about 1% of the market, USD 69.14 million, growing at a projected 9.8% CAGR. South Africa leads that growth at 10.7%. Again, advancement of healthcare infrastructure, for example, in Nigeria, is noted as a key factor.
So even in the smaller markets, infrastructure and spending improvements are making a difference.
Definitely. It underscores how access is expanded globally, albeit at different rates.
Okay, fascinating regional breakdown. Let's shift gears now to the products themselves. The report says Viagra, sildenafil citrate, still dominated in 2025. No huge surprise there.
No, it's been the big name for a long time. But the interesting part is the other drugs segment. It's expected to expand rapidly.
Why is that? New competitors?
Partly, yes. Availability of other medications like Heleva, Emfix, but also increasing acceptance of over-the-counter options in some places. And the report mentions strategic initiatives too, like research collaborations and partnerships boosting these alternatives.
So more choice emerging. Does the report mention why people might choose alternatives? Viagra's characteristics.
It briefly touches on Viagra's profile. Things like duration or side effect profile can differ between drugs. This rapid growth in other drugs really suggests a move towards more, maybe personalized treatment. Patients and doctors having more options to find the best fit.
And maybe less stigma attached to newer brands or OTC versions.
That could certainly be a factor too. Plus the development of novel molecules and, crucially, different ways to administer these drugs. Things like creams, pellets. They broaden the appeal beyond just pills.
Right, which brings us to the route of administration. Oral pills were the largest share in 2025.
Yes, oral mode held the biggest share. Think convenience, non-invasiveness. People are used to taking pills. That includes the main PDE5 inhibitors like sildenafil, Viagra, tadalafil, Cialis, vardenafil, Levitra.
Those are the ones that help increase blood flow, basically.
Essentially, yes. But again, the highest growth is expected elsewhere.
In the other modes, like topical and intraurethral.
Exactly. Topical creams, gels, even intraurethral applications. The report projects the highest KGR for these methods.
Why the shift?
Rising incidence of ED overall, plus increased awareness that these newer forms even exist. The report gives examples like alprostadol cream, Petaros, nitroglycerin ointments, and notably Eroxen.
Eroxen. That was approved fairly recently, wasn't it?
It was. FDA approved it in June 2023. It's a topical gel, and the big claim is that it can work in just 10 minutes.
10 minutes, that's fast.
It is, and that highlights a potential advantage of topical or localized treatments. While oral meds are convenient, they circulate systemically, which can lead to side effects for some people. Topicals offer a more direct approach.
Minimizing side effects, faster action, sounds appealing. So That projected growth makes sense.
It does. It shows the market is responding to needs beyond just efficacy, considering speed, side effects, user preference.
Okay, so we've covered drivers like hypertension and chronic diseases and the move towards new products and delivery methods. What about the hurdles? What's holding the market back, according to the report?
Two main things mentioned: stringent regulatory scenarios and the availability of alternative therapies.
Regulatory hurdles, that's standard for pharma, right? Getting approval takes time and money.
Always a factor. It can
Yeah.
definitely slow down how quickly new innovations reach patients and the alternative therapies point. That's important too.
What does that include? Lifestyle changes, therapy.
Exactly. Lifestyle adjustments, psychological counseling, vacuum devices, even non-prescription supplements, whether effective or not. They all represent alternatives that some individuals might choose instead of prescription drugs.
Right, it's not the only solution people might seek. Okay, on the flip side, what trends are pushing things forward?
The report highlights two key trends: the increase in online pharmacies and the growing traction of combination capsules.
Online pharmacies, that seems huge for accessibility and privacy.
Absolutely. It's significantly changed how easily people can access these medications, often more discreetly than traditional routes.
And combination capsules, what are those?
Well, the idea is potentially combining an ED drug with something else, maybe a supplement for overall sexual health, or even medication for a related condition like premature ejaculation, perhaps.
Hmm.
More of an all-in-one approach.
Interesting. So convenience and maybe tackling multiple issues at once.
That seems to be the appeal, yeah. Reflects evolving consumer demands.
Got it. Finally, let's talk about the companies involved. Who are the key players in this multi-billion-dollar market?
It's a very competitive landscape, as you'd expect. You've got the established global giants, Pfizer, of course, Teva, Bayer, Lilly, GlaxoSmithKline.
The household names in pharma?
Right. But you also have other significant players like Petrus Pharmaceuticals, Lupin Limited, Futura Medical, and then the newer, often direct-to-consumer, tech-focused companies.
Like Hims and Hers, or Buchu.
Exactly those.
Yeah.
They've really shaken things up with their telehealth models and marketing. And we're seeing interesting collaborations, too.
Such as?
Well, the report mentions Hims and Hers partnering with Hartford Healthcare earlier this year for in-person referrals when needed. That bridges the gap between telehealth and traditional healthcare.
Okay, makes sense.
And Petrus Pharmaceuticals, who makes Stendra, collaborated with 23andMe and Lemonade Health just recently, in May 2024, to offer Stendra via telehealth. They're explicitly aiming for eventual over-the-counter status.
Ah, the OTC push again. And Hims and Hers introduced something new, too?
They did. In May 2023, they launched hard mints, basically chewable, mint-flavored versions, using the active ingredients of existing ED drugs like tadalafil and sildenafil.
Different formulation, maybe less clinical feeling than a pill.
Precisely. It's all about tapping into patient preference, reducing stigma, and increasing convenience. It shows how dynamic the competition is.
Definitely a busy space. Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. To recap the key takeaways, we're looking at a substantial global market for ED drugs, currently over $3 billion.
And set for significant growth, projected to more than double by 2033, hitting nearly $6.5 billion.
With the fastest growth, interestingly, expected in the Asia-Pacific region.
Right, driven by demographics, rising awareness, and improving healthcare access.
Product-wise, Viagra is still king, but the other drug segment and alternative delivery methods like topicals are the ones poised for the most rapid expansion.
Yeah, oral pills remain dominant for now due to convenience, but demand for faster-acting, potentially lower side effect options like creams and gels is clearly rising.
Market drivers include health trends like more hypertension and chronic diseases, while regulations and alternative therapies act as restraints.
And key trends pushing forward are the rise of online pharmacies improving access, and maybe these new combination treatments gaining traction.
And the competitive field is a mix of old guard pharma and newer, often tech-driven players, all innovating with partnerships, telehealth, and new formulations.
Exactly. It paints a picture of a really vibrant, evolving market. It's influenced by this complex mix of health trends, technology, and changing ways people access healthcare.
It really highlights how these shifts aren't just, business trends. They directly impact personal health choices and wellness for millions worldwide.
Absolutely.
That's a fantastic summary. It really makes you think. With these alternative delivery methods becoming more common and access potentially getting easier through telehealth and maybe even OTC routes, How might that continue to change the conversation around erectile dysfunction? Could it empower even more people to seek help sooner and ultimately improve their quality of life?
That's a great question to ponder. The potential for destigmatization and improved well-being is certainly there.
Definitely something for our listeners to consider. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.